Let's bring Sarah on right now. And yeah, I love the power of that presentation and the passion, Ronnie, that you show, and also you kind of even hinted on a deeper concept of idea meritocracy within organizations. So moving beyond cause and just saying it's not my company. Let's see what the company really wants to do and how they should respond in order to care about a cause and be authentic as a brand. And I think a lot of people here might be running small teams. Maybe you founded your company and you feel like this is the direction we should go in, but you should stop and talk to your team and really get to the bottom of who you are before jumping into that. So with that being said, hello, Sarah, welcome.
Hi, Derek. Hi, Ronnie. Good to see you both.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Always wonderful. So, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. I was super excited when Derek said, do you have anybody who is doing this really well and who also lends itself to this conversation? Who would it be? Of course, you came to mind.
Thank you. That's kind.
Your approach to impact has been incredible. And coming off of what Derek just said, you bring in your team to the conversation so much, and you have such a meritocracy in that conversation where you enable your employees to, I've worked with various members on your team and they're all passionate about this and they all have different perspectives of the way to give. Talk to me about your vision and how you think about impact. And when we talk about impact, it's everything we talk about today. So that, whether that be, just to classify it, could be your team, your community, your company, or your product. Your team, your community, your customer, and your product. How do you think about impact as it relates and kind of fits into Margot?
Great question. And Ronnie, I have to thank you for all of the great work that you and your team have done for Margot over the course of the last almost 9 months that we've been working together on various impact projects. But I think that my answer has definitely evolved over time, and it's evolved given the moment and the state of the country that we're living in right now. We initially started working together, and our first impact project at Margot was Giving Back in the Giving Tuesday example that Ronnie pointed to earlier this year, which was supporting the Lower East Side Girls Club through a give back event. It was 10% of sales, I believe. And it was really successful, and it was a reflection of who we are as a brand and what we place value on, and also what is important to exactly what Ronnie was saying, members of our team. And that's empowering women in their everyday lives, and that starts with women as young women. And the Lower East Side Girls Club is doing amazing work in New York, particularly in the Lower East Side, which is a historically underserved part of the city. In giving these girls access to after-school programs, extracurriculars, tutoring, all of these things that are so essential to building confidence as a young woman. And that was the start of now a series of give back events that we've done. They picked up in cadence, I think, and picked up in importance, not quite importance, that's the wrong word, but they picked up in cadence when we entered this very strange period that we did back in March, when the whole country was kind of dealing with this COVID crisis, and we felt in some ways helpless. And what can we do to support the people who are on the front lines fighting the coronavirus, putting themselves in harm's way? And so we chose to give back to two organizations at that time, Direct Relief and Doctors Without Borders, and customers had the option to choose between one or the other, whichever resonated the best with them. And that was really meaningful, again, to both our team and our customer at a time that felt so overwhelming for everyone, both on the brand side and also on the customers, and feeling that even in the purchases that we were making, we were allowing customers the opportunity to give back to a cause that felt so relevant to the moment. And I think that has continued over the course of the last few months with a partnership that we did with No Kid Hungry and a donate your discount sale event where we gave customers the option to choose between taking the discount for themselves or giving a portion or all of their discount back to No Kid Hungry. And then most recently in June, for the entire month of June, we were giving 10% of sales to the Equal Justice Initiative, which is an incredible organization that's addressing racial injustice in our justice system. And we, like Ronnie, we felt that was absolutely necessary, not just to show sensitivity to the moment as a brand, and to speak to the moment and to take a stand on it, but also to reflect, again, the values of our team and the values of this brand and this business.
Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. And I appreciate the kind words. And I'm very excited for the future with you and what's to come here. Tell me, my last question here, and then I'll let you hand off and kind of shift away from impact and more into a broad stroke of the future of fashion e-commerce. So I don't take the whole presentation here, but where do you think, and what are you excited for as a next step here? Like, how do you think about impact evolving within Margot? What do you think is next for you?
Yeah, I think, this year has been transformative in so many ways, but I think that it has, it made people and customers expect more from brands than they ever have before. And it's held brands to, a standard of needing to offer not just great products, but to offer a business model that customers can get behind and to support and stand for values and principles that customers can get behind. And so I think that this has kind of fundamentally shifted the role of giving back and impact in the e-commerce model in particular, and that it's going to be, a long-term effect of the changes that we've seen in the last few months. Brands will have to do this in order to speak to what their customers, what their communities, what this country is going through in the months going forward and the years going forward. And I think that is a change for the better. It's making impact, part of the everyday choices that you're making as a business person, as a founder, as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Have a wonderful conversation with Derek, and really appreciate you and your partnership with your team. Keep on doing amazing things. And thanks for helping change the face of commerce. When we talk about change commerce, you are leading the way, and we appreciate you. Have a wonderful conversation. Thank you, everybody, very much.
Ronnie, before you go,
yeah,
when we're talking about the future of e-commerce and the future of cause marketing, let's map it out. What percentage of brands today are incorporating cause marketing? You said less than 1%. What's that going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Yeah. So, it's funny I get asked this question. When you think about the shift of the industry, and history repeats itself, and you see alternative payment methods. How long did alternative payment methods, they came out 6 years ago, as long as, Afterpay now, 3-4 years ago, it still wasn't as popular. How long did it take for that to catch up and now become the most dominant force of transactions? And where I think we are, and the tailwinds that we have, that we've gotten from everything that's taking place, and when I talk about tomorrow today, is 2023 arrived in 2020. And so all of those brands who didn't have alternative payment methods are absolutely going to need it. And now they're going to need a lot of other things to support driving customers and driving engagement and connecting with people on a personal level. And that interaction of human and brand that you were creating and storing, that experiential, the emotional attachments of bringing somebody into Margot's footprint in New York and being able to connect and build that relationship and build that clientele. There's a whole new group of interactions and things that we haven't even thought about that I believe that impact plays a role in. And so we I think are where Afterpay was 2 years ago. And that in the next 2 years, you are going to see shopping gives. And I'm sure there's going to be a slew of competitors that follow our suite because we are, leading the way here. But that you're going to see impact at every point of purchase. And we believe, and that's what we talk about, impact, whether it be at a point of purchase. But I believe that at a future point, we will be in the center of whether it be your mortgage, your gasoline, your shoes, hooked up to your payment on your phone, that we are going to be powering impact, and that you will have control over where that dollar goes, and that you should have control over that. And that democratization of impact lives with you as a consumer to vote. And so that question is, there's a lot of big ideas that we could talk about of how this manifests relationships and maybe that interpersonal conversation. There's a lot of great tools of video and how do we include impact in video. I'll stop there in rambling, but sorry, this is Sarah's session. Go ahead.
No, it's great. And and I completely agree. I think we're going to have a really fast adoption curve here. And the brands that, I don't know, maybe they feel they're too good to give back, or it doesn't need to be part of their business or business model or something like that. They're the ones
never too early.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say is it's never too early to start. And it's flexible, and you should be thinking about giving back in various ways. It doesn't just need to be monetary. And I'll leave you with this is, think about this. I'm going to repeat what I said. I'm going to bring it back is your team first. Start with your team, start with your customer, your community, and your product. The question of change and what's happening goes back to when you talk about your product, it's not just packaging or, the manufacturing, it's who's on your logistics, who are your agencies that you're working with, what is the diversity within those agencies, what does your supply chain diversity look like, who are you working with to drive this change, and it needs to be a full picture that makes it come to life.
I completely agree with that. I think that it's not just enough to talk the talk anymore. You have to walk the walk, and that has to touch almost every aspect of your business, not just your e-commerce storefront and whether you're giving back a certain percentage of purchases. Of course, that's the immediate action that you can take, but it goes beyond that, and it has to go beyond that. And so if you're prioritizing a cause, you need to make sure that the rest of your business reflects the support of that cause and those principles.
Yeah, I agree
100%.
completely. And on my side, we're a small business, ecommercetech.io, and so we're not giving back monetarily yet. But we do have a cause that we support, which is especially gender equality in our speaking lineup and in gender equality in general, but especially in showcasing it in e-commerce and in technology, which are the two industries that we play in. And we see massive inequality from who's starting companies to who's speaking at events. And so we look forward to the day when we can give back. I personally believe that giving back needs to be scalable. I can't, giving $100 isn't going to help if I can't give $100, over time. 100 will help, and that's important for an individual, but I want to build it into the business. And so in our roadmap for 2021, we'll be launching a nonprofit separate from our business that focuses in empowering women in e-commerce, women-founded e-commerce companies. And then we're going to use our network of partners to support that and get them involved and make it about cause marketing. So there's a campaign, there's a marketing ROI that can be justified, but there's also an important cause that you can stand behind as well. And I think in that way, by structuring it that way, it can be scalable, powerful, impactful, and we can keep going year after year. Sadly, I couldn't launch it this year. I wanted to. It was on my roadmap. And then I was like, I have literally too much on my plate. I need to get the business a little bigger. That way I can support it and do it to its fullest extent. So
yeah, that's great to hear that you're doing that. And it makes me think what you were just saying, it makes me think of free shipping and how, when free shipping first happened and Zappos introduced that as their way of doing business online, it was revolutionary, and it was something that was a value add to the customer. And now free shipping has become a consideration that you as a brand kind of factor into your margin buildup and how you think about setting pricing for your product. And maybe that's a change that we'll kind of see in making impact a permanent part of our business. And,
I love that.
Knowing that 1%, 3%, 5%, whatever that percentage is that makes sense for you is kind of baked into your cost of goods, your cost of selling that product.
Yeah, bring it above the line. Absolutely. In terms of P&L. Sarah, I didn't introduce you the right way, and I didn't ask you to introduce yourself the right way. Can you tell us about Margot? And I apologize for that. I kind of just brushed over it. I was too excited to talk to you.
Not at all. We jumped right in. So a quick introduction of Margot. We are a women's footwear business based in New York, direct to consumer, and really originated from the idea and the realization that by my co-founder and I, that women were so often having to choose between style and comfort when it came to shoes. And we found ourselves doing this kind of terribly awkward shoe shuffle always, where we had an extra pair of shoes under our desk, an extra pair of heels in the drawer, a pair of shoes in our bag. And we're constantly switching between the shoes that could get us to where we were going and the shoes that we wanted to actually wear when we arrived. And it felt horribly kind of awkward and clunky and outdated to have to constantly be doing that shoe shuffle and not to be able to find a beautiful, comfortable pair of shoes that could really keep up with our everyday. And so we launched Margot in 2015 with our first shoe and have since built out a collection of wear everywhere styles, everything designed with comfort in mind. We're also the only size inclusive footwear brand. So we carry sizes 2.5 to 14, 3 widths, and a range of made-to-measure options. So truly anyone can find their fit in our selection. And It's been a great journey, and now we are kind of in growth mode. So focusing on scaling up the business and adding new styles, acquiring customers online, and also have a few retail stores now as well.
That's amazing. And this is a problem that my wife specifically has. She has bunions and she has small feet and she can never find the right shoe. We just returned to Zappos like 3 pairs, and she buys a lot off of some online communities as well, just like hunting down the right pair. So I just sent her the link, and I was like, Shayna,
oh, thank you.
I think she'll have to be a customer forever. We'll find the right pair for us.
Yeah.
To fit. Ronnie, did you want to head out? You can stay if you want. It's up to you.
Whatever you want. I mean, I'll chime in. I don't want to take it's about Sarah right now. So you tell me what you want to do.
Stick. I think you have some value to add, but but yeah, we'll change the focus to the business and how, and it's a great like intro story to, you called it the shoe shuffle, which I love, this idea. And I think it's a problem that almost every woman has probably experienced at one point. And as a man, I've seen it a lot. And I've worked with team members that I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to do that. Like, I just wear these crummy sneakers. It's certainly a problem that men don't have to go through, but you can identify with as like, why can't we have comfort and fashion combined together? So I see that unique angle of a business model, and perhaps to the fashion brands or people thinking of starting a company, I think that, Sarah, you're exemplifying like you had a problem that you specifically had, and you found that nobody was creating the right solution. And I think that's where real business and e-commerce is born, in a minor innovation in that way, but it turns into a kind of a major innovation. Because anybody could have made a comfortable, fashionable shoe, and certainly some have been made in the past. But the question is, can you own that intersection of the two and become that product category that maybe doesn't exist yet? So you're not just a collection on another site, but you're just known for that one thing. And I think in this case, perfect example of an underserved need and an opportunity to take it over. So. But on that note, I want to talk about actually creating a business here, because I think it's easier said than done. I'm sure it took you a long time to develop the first product. Tell me about early sourcing strategy. How did you create your first prototype? And maybe some of the mistakes and bumps along the road to just getting this out to market.
Gosh, well, it's such a messy journey, and I think Ronnie will tell you that, any entrepreneur will tell you that you make a million mistakes along the way, and there are highs and lows, even to this day, sometimes within the span of an hour of one another. But those early days were really defined by, first of all, crystallizing the vision for the brand. So taking a long view in that way. What did we want Margot to become? What did Margot stand for? What was the aesthetic? What emotions did we want it to evoke? And then from there, it was translating that into design. So we started with a brand and we moved into the product. And so that allowed us to always approach product with a laser focused view on how it would both serve our customer, but also how it generally fit into the world of the brand, and then how we would build from there. With footwear, I think the most critical part always is product development and manufacturing. And so often the manufacturing world is extremely opaque. So you often need someone who comes from the industry, an industry insider who can make those introductions, help you get your foot in the door with the right factory in the right place. And we were lucky to be able to find that with 2 people who are still with the company to this day. They lead our product development efforts, and they helped set us up with a factory in Spain. And that factory has been kind of the partner that has made this possible. And so we've been really fortunate.
Step back here. How did you actually find them? You said you were lucky to find them. How did you find them? And also, how did you afford them? Or are they official co-founders?
They are not official co-founders. They are people who have spent their entire lives working in footwear. So it's a husband and wife team, actually. Husband started as an apprentice in the Todd's factory when he was like 17 years old. It's an amazing story. And his wife similarly has been working in shoes her entire life. And I found them on LinkedIn, truly. And I sent them it was in the day when you would find people on LinkedIn and then send them a Facebook message or something. And that's how I got in touch. And somehow they saw the message, agreed to meet my co-founder and I for coffee, and we hit it off immediately. And we're working together, from that day, and have been for the last almost 6 years now. So
you were lucky they were New York based then.
They're New York based. They had the factory connections. I mean, we were so fortunate in finding the right people who understood the vision and were willing to try to do the impossible, because the concept that we were offering these factories, they truly believed was impossible, offering that range of sizes in the made to measure offering that we ultimately designed. And so part of this is luck, and also part of it is tenacity. So kind of chasing down those connections, those people that are going to make your vision happen. And not giving up until you find it.
I think the skill is in knowing what you need, and then also not settling perhaps until you have it. So you could have found a second-rate sourcing partner, or maybe you even talked to other people in the past, said not the right fit, still not understand the vision. Because you can definitely make those types of mistakes along the way. But give me maybe a different type of mistake. So that one sounds like a success. I like hearing about mistakes because mistakes are the fastest way to learn.
Yes.
Unfortunately, and my dad said, learn from my mistakes. And I guess you would have thought that I would have listened a little better, but I had to go make them myself for a lot of my life and business decisions. And sometimes you get to learn from others, but other times it's a little bit of that. Are there any of those rocky moments or other mistakes, whether it's from product design failures to marketing mishaps?
Yeah, so many mistakes that we've made along the way. One in particular that comes to mind was, again, in the early days, we were about to launch one of our second products. It was a limited edition. We really, drummed up the announcement of it. We took pre-orders. We sold most of our inventory on pre-order, and then the inventory comes in, and it turns out that there was a fundamental flaw in the making of that product, and the product was not sound. And so then we had this moment where we were such a young business, of course, something like this can damage your reputation with your customers. And we had this, we grappled with this question of what do we do? Do we cancel these orders? Do we tell customers what happened? Do we ship the product, which didn't seem like an option at all? And what we ultimately ended up doing was kind of taking a very human approach to this product, writing a letter to every customer who had pre-ordered saying, thank you so much for your support of our brand. It means so much. Unfortunately, there was an issue. We are remaking your product as we speak. We'll offer it to you at a discount. And if you'd like to keep your order, let us know. We'll extend that discount to you. If not, we'll cancel it and we'll refund you in full right away. And ultimately, what we found is that most people ended up opting to keep their order and accepting the discount, and really appreciated, I think, the transparency and how we handled that situation. And that has become a formational moment, I think, for how we speak to our customer, always being honest in the situation, always being transparent. And then, of course, recognizing a customer when they have an issue, when they are patient for, perhaps a late delivery or something, with a discount or something that kind of honors their loyalty and their support of the brand.
I love it. And I think that is like the key takeaway, whether it is cause marketing, which we've obviously gone into great detail, or just a mishap, or, an inventory mess up, a product gets lost somewhere. And I know a lot of people recently had a lot of products locked in China that they couldn't get. So they were out of inventory. And I think that authenticity is often hard to find, because it's a little, you have to have a little bit of humility. Real quick. What's that, Ronnie?
I'm going to chime in here, and Sarah has seen this from us, but one of our values is be a best friend. And Sarah kind of just hit it on the head. And I think that the learn that I would share with everybody is approach every conversation, whether it be your customer or your employee, this conversation like a best friend, which is transparent, humble, with a smile, willing to take feedback the same way you would with a best friend. And that kind of approach, which is empathetic. And I think that is probably one of the most positive things that came out of COVID, if anything came out of COVID, is the COVID empathy of when you start a conversation now, you say, how are you? Are you safe? Is everything okay? Additionally, sales calls have stopped from inbounds. You know, everyone's getting a little bit less sales calls. I hope that that maintains that. If we figure out as sales individuals, because we still have to sell, but we figure out how to be more empathetic and identify people who are interested versus, you know, push, which was nice to get a break from that during COVID. And I'm sure it was nice for Sarah, who from a retailer side, I can only imagine. And I always joke about being at Shop Talk for say, and looking at the sea of 4,000 service providers in the meat packing district of meats. And just that's like a microism of your inbox. And for us to all remember that as you know, leaders and as founders, that's what everybody else is dealing with. So I love that, Sarah. I do have to go. I'm going to interject purposefully to say that. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Ronnie.
you all.
Thanks, Ronnie. We'll talk to
Thank
you
you.
Good
soon.
having you. Good way to close it out as well. We will see you later, Ronnie. It's always a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. On that note, it's a really good transition to make here is what has changed for you in the last few months? What are you doing differently? You mentioned some causes that you supported in June and prior, but aside from that, how has supply chain changed? How has marketing changed? Are you seeing different cost per acquisition on different channels? Are you extending new partnerships? I'd love to hear your plan for growth through 2020.
Yeah, where to begin? So much has changed. Not just about how we work as a team. So we're all remote right now, working from studio apartments and childhood bedrooms and everywhere in between. And that has been, I think, a great learning moment in terms of being a founder and how you kind of connect with employees and how you also maintain connection amongst themselves. While we're all working in this remote world. From a supply chain, we've been extremely fortunate in that we were not really interrupted being in Europe. There were a few weeks where our factory was shut down, but industry was very protected in Europe. I think the most fundamental change that we've seen is a shift in customer buying behavior, for one. So customers are being more intentional about the dollars that they spend, where they spend it. So supporting small business, supporting brands that align with their values, and also buying a bit less because we're all realizing, why do I have all of these things that I don't necessarily need? And then when we do buy things, we're buying things that bring us joy. And so we've actually seen a fundamental change in our product mix away from basics, actually, towards product that's more novel, product that makes customers happy. And that's actually the complete opposite of what we anticipated, which was that when all of this happened, we thought that we would see a shift towards, blacks, neutrals, things that were kind of year-round basics, very kind of serious, conservative, multi-use colors. And what we ended up finding was that we were selling the florals and the bright colors and the light colors because that's what made people happy in the moment. And so that, I think, will be with us for a while, and kind of customers that buying things that really bring them joy. And I think finally, just circling back on the impact conversation, that has been a part of the business that's been extremely important, not just to my co-founder and I, but also to our team, and finally, and most importantly, to our customer base as well. So showing empathy through the causes that we've chosen to support and how we've chosen to support them, and showing awareness and sensitivity to these moments that have been incredibly challenging, all within a short period of time in very different ways. And so the partnership that we have with Shop and Give has been really important to that, and giving back has been really important to us.
It's really interesting that you say people are buying less and buying for joy. And also, you sell a product that is supposed to solve the shoe shuffle, which implies walking and going to work, which no one's doing. But you're saying that business is still good, and instead of people buying for the shoe shuffle, they're buying for fun. And
yes.
So I can only imagine that there's a lot of people in Zoom calls that are wearing like the coolest shoes, and we just don't get to see them.
Yeah.
And they're just doing it for you, so that you can have fun. And you know what? I've done the same thing. I've been buying some fun shirts, basically, so that I can wear a little bit more fun and just be a little more different. I don't know. than just.
Totally. I mean, I've been forcing myself to put on shoes every morning because that makes me feel like a little bit more of a sense of normalcy. But yes, I think, we've certainly seen a shift towards more casual styles as well, because customers are dressing for their home. They're dressing kind of for the immediate moment. But I think the number one thing for me and takeaway for me has been novelty and joy and things that bring kind of happiness to these everyday moments.
I love it. That actually answers what the next question, but let's go even a little deeper. My next question was going to be about how fashion has changed and what the rest of the year looks like, but I want to even go, so novelty and joy are kind of, let's say, trending today because of us being stuck inside and looking for those in different places.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see it going from here beyond 2020? And I'm sure you have to prepare product lines and products well in advance. So you have to kind of predict the market. We can certainly expect this to stay true for a little while, but what else are you doing to prepare for changes moving into 2021?
That's a great question, and we're in the middle of forecasting for 21 right now. I think that we are trying to diversify our product lineup enough for any kind of outcome, whether it's that things reopen a little bit sooner than we think, and we see a shift back towards the products that were previously dominating our sales mix, but also making sure that we have enough variety, enough product that speaks to the way that we're living right now, that if this persists, until next summer, which it very likely could, then we're well prepared for that as well. I think the most important thing is kind of setting yourself up for financial success as a business. And that means making, perhaps the hard decisions that you have to right now to make sure that you can weather this storm, whatever you're going through, and kind of survive, because so much of this is about getting through the difficult period that we're in. And we also just don't know, like we were just talking about, how long it's necessarily going to last. But I think when we come out on the backside, shopping behaviors will be fundamentally shifted. The impact conversation we've already had, and I do believe that impact going forward will be a critical part of business plans and strategies and value propositions. But more so than that, I think sustainability is going to make massive leaps and bounds in the next few months, and has already in the last few months. We as a brand, for example, are just about to roll out a new suite of eco-friendly packaging. It started being released last month, but eliminating all plastic and unnecessary waste from packaging, eliminating even shoe boxes. So now everything ships inside of 100% recycled mailer that's 100% recyclable, and a dust bag that is 100% cotton. So kind of eliminating all excess in our packaging. And for a period of time, there's such an emphasis on brand and packaging and all of these kind of additional items that you got with the product, that it, first of all, pushed e-commerce in the direction of being very unsustainable, but also kind of put emphasis on the wrong things, which is not the product itself. And so I'm excited to see sustainability become, again, part of like every day of doing business and the new standard of doing business in this world. And finally, I think on the product side of things, we need to prepare for customers to be a little bit more casual in the short term, but then also to, I think, be kind of celebratory and exuberant in their style once we all kind of emerge from these little bubbles that we're all in right now.
I love it. And we had Leslie Fong from Venom as our opening keynote. And if you're listening now and you haven't seen that session, we'll have it on demand for you in a few days and on our YouTube. And she also has a really high focus in sustainability. She's trying to create carbon negative impact with her denim jacket line. Wow. And it's obviously there's a big challenge there, but all of her material is bought from the leftover of large companies like Levi's. So apparently there's thousands of rolls of denim that just sit, and they have to figure out, are we going to toss them? Or are we going to turn them into recycled material every year? And so she was like, we'll buy them. And so found a way to scale sort of a secondhand acquisition, which I think is really powerful. Yeah.
That's a great example. I was just going to say of sustainability actually being good for business. And I think that's what a lot of people are waking up to, is that making these decisions that reduce your impact is also good for your bottom line as well, and can be good for your bottom line.
Yeah.
I think it is the new standard, and customers are expecting more from brands than ever before in terms of, the quality of the product, yes, but also like how the brand internalizes and externalizes their commitment to sustainability and values.
And I can't wait for the 5 and 10 year future, because the truth is things have changed so fast in just in the last 20 years from no e-commerce, right? Like we didn't even have an internet about 25 years ago to where we are today with shipping and logistics. And no one really thought through, oh, we can actually do this in a better, more sustainable way. And it's better for every party involved. And so I think 10 years from now, there'll be significantly less waste in the trash can as merchants, and including the big guy Amazon, where I actually do get a box in a box in a box sometimes, when I'm buying from them. It's like, I think we could have probably done with at least one less box, maybe two, like, and really thinking through what that looks like. I think it's powerful. And I think if people are buying from you today, they're going to feel that when they open the product. It's maybe it isn't, an insert card that it activates them on social, or a fancy, unboxing of like you think of the Apple unboxing experience. It's something simpler that just is like, please discard this recycled waste. It'll, it's completely biodegradable. And it's like, oh, that's amazing. I don't have to, harm the environment after buying this product. So
yeah. And every brand that chooses to implement something like that is kind of contributing to building momentum behind this shift that we need to see happen in fashion, which is historically very wasteful and, extremely impactful on the negative side when it comes to environmental factors.
Yeah. So we've talked about sustainability. You mentioned securing the financial success. Let's go back to that briefly, and then we need to wrap up. We're a little over time, but it doesn't matter. We'll be okay. So if you diversify your product line, that kind of means instead of buying, I'll just give out numbers, like 20,000 of a core product, you're buying like 3,000 of 12 products, and there's risk there, and there might even be more inventory overhead. Do you take out a loan? Do you look for investment? Do you just lower the inventory numbers? And how do you work with suppliers? Are you losing out, your cost of goods sold going up because of this? I'm sure there are some serious financial concerns around it, but I'd love to hear just like a little bit more of a deep dive into it.
Yeah, great question. And I think the answer is so dependent on the type of business that you're in and the stage of business that you're in. But there are a number of ways and tools available to help navigate this, whether it's bridge financing options like Shopify Capital or Cabbage. But then there's also, as you get to have, as you build up your inventory pool, and that becomes a real asset that you can borrow off of their inventory-based lines of credit. There are also players who fund marketing as well. But I think that I would encourage people to not be scared of using debt in a smart way, but you have to use it in a smart way. Similarly, equity right now and investment is happening, but it's mostly happening for businesses that have benefited from the current situation. So really, it's kind of making the best of what you can with what you have. Buying better when it comes to inventory. So perhaps buying less, but being able to work out terms with your suppliers that allow you to either adjust the payment schedule so that it's better for your cash flow, or to allow you to have shorter reorder times so that you can place smaller orders and respond to demand as you see that come from customers. And then I actually saw a really interesting example from, I believe it was Tailor Stitch the other day, that somebody forwarded to me, and I'll call it out because I think it's a really intriguing business model. But they were publicizing new product that was launching in October, and they offered it to customers on pre-order because it was about to head into production. And they offered customers a discount if they pre-ordered it up front. So that's a way of a company almost financing their inventory run with pre-orders, but then giving something to the customer back for kind of placing that as a pre-order and helping them with that.
And after what you told me about your second product pre-order, are you saying our pre-order, there seems to be a risk here, but you were able to acknowledge the risk, but when done properly, and you mentioned, staying authentic and talking it through with the customer. I think, letting the customer help you finance should be step one. Then looking at, maybe midterm loan repayment options where you can prove before investing that the the APR of the loan is less than the growth and revenue generated from the business. So if your operating margin is higher and you basically have proven financials over that you can pretty well ballpark over the next 6 months, sometimes you can see that by leveraging the debt, you will actually make more money. And it's just it's a lot of math to do and a lot of preparation, a little bit of guesswork and a little bit of luck. But I think most people can accelerate growth when using that properly. So I do recommend looking into those tools. I can talk with people about those tools. I know that space pretty well, but awesome. Sarah, this has been highly impactful of an interview. By far, I think we learned a lot and we covered so many things today. If you guys haven't checked out her site, margotny.com, I highly recommend taking a look at it, especially for women with different sized feet or women that are traveling to work, which I know will happen again soon. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was a fun conversation and love the work that you're doing as well.